Welcome to part 4 of the series on CSS and HTML development. So far we've created some artwork, which was a skeleton, and now we're going to try and place some fire inside that skeleton. So let's have a look at what we'll be creating. So the first thing we should do is have a look at what we'll be creating in this video. So here is our skeleton with some fire in its mouth. All of this was done via using CSS and HTML. I think these kind of activities are a great way to get familiar with how CSS works and all the properties that you can use to create fun things. So let's get started. Okay, so in this video, the big aim is to create the layout for our fire art. By the end of the video, you'll understand how we can use absolute positioning, or the property for absolute positioning, and how we can combine two classes in CSS and why we would do this. Do remember the way that I do this is try to make it as active as possible. So you'll get a series of questions that I would like you to pause the video and answer, and then compare your answer to my answer. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the layout that I'm going to create the fire in our artwork, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. So we have the mouth container already in our art. Now what we need to do is we need to create a glow container. This will be a circular and it will be slightly blurry, so we're going to be using some of those properties. Under that, or in that container, we're going to have an animation container. So this will be the container that we're going to use to develop the animation. And then this one we're going to have, although there's going to be a fire container, it's going to mix with the three other containers. So we have fire orange, fire yellow, and fire white. So even though orange will have its own container, yellow will have its own container, and white will have its own container, the CSS will be combined. So again, the fire CSS will combine with the orange CSS container to make a unique container for the fire orange. The fire container will combine with the yellow container to make a unique yellow container. So hopefully you've understood that. What we have here is we have some questions. So if this is confusing to you at all, go back and watch my previous video, and we broke it down step by step of how I make the layout. But I would like you to see if you can answer the first question. Which containers do we need to add the flex property to? So stop the video and see if you can answer the first question. So hopefully you've paused the video, and let's look at the first answer. So the way that I would do it is I would add a flex to the mouth container because we want to center the glow container in the middle. I'd also add a flex to the animation container because that we want to add the fire in the center. Potentially what you could do is you could keep adding that flex to like the orange fire, the yellow fire, and the white fire. I haven't done that because we're going to be repeating. If you do that, you're going to repeat code quite a bit. So I have just chosen to add flex to the mouth, the glow, and the animation. And you'll see what I mean by this saving code as we answer the rest of the questions. So pause the video now and see if you can answer the rest of the questions based on the layout that you have in front of you. So hopefully you've paused the video. Let's have a look at some of the answers. So for the flex boxes, or the containers that will have flexed, I would have all of them vertically and horizontally aligned in the center. So if you use the actual property, the justify content and the aligned items, that's brilliant. At the moment I'm using a little bit of pseudocode just to create the layout, but if you've used the correct properties, brilliant. Which container will contain the shape of the fire? Well, the shape of the fire is going to be in the fire container. So this is where you can start seeing how it saves code. So if I had the orange box, then I would have to have the orange box with the shape of the fire, the yellow box with the shape of the fire, and the white box with the shape of the fire. But instead, what I could do is create another class with the actual shape that all the boxes are going to be, and then I can create this unique class by combining the fire CSS with the orange CSS, and to create the fire orange class. And then again, I could create the fire yellow class and the fire white class. So this would have these shared properties within the fire container and mixing in with the unique properties of the orange container. So that's what we're going to be doing. So then, knowing that, hopefully you know which container we need to position manually. So we're going to be positioning this fire class manually. So if we position this where we want, then all the orange, yellow, and white will be positioned exactly at the same place here. How can we manually position it, and what do we need to think about? Well, this is slightly harder, because if we used the margin one, then we would have to make a change the margin properties for orange, yellow, and white, because it's in this flex. It's in this flex property, because what they will try and do is they will try and put them in rows. So the orange box will go on the left, the yellow will be in the middle, and the white will be on the right. And then you would have to change the margins to make sure that all of them are in the center. However, if we use the absolute positioning property, what that does is it stops other elements interfering. So it's like acting like this orange box is the only box within the animation container, or in the fire container, sorry. The yellow box is the only box in the fire container. The white box is the only box in the fire container. So what this means is that we can set the position with this fire container, and then all of these other boxes are going to be in that position. They will not change. They will not change their positioning because there's an extra box here. So we're going to be using that absolute positioning tool. And lastly, which container should give the height, width, and color of the fire? Well, these boxes here. So each orange box, the orange box will have a separate height, width, and color. The yellow box will have a separate height, width, and color, and the white box will have a separate height, width, and color. Okay, so hopefully you've got your answers were similar to my answers. If they're not, first try and do the layout with yours, and then come back and watch my way of doing it and see which one you like better. So the whole point is for you to discover and try these things. So in the next video, we are going to be creating this layout using CSS. So we've come to the end of the planning video, so thank you very much for watching. If you find it useful, or you're interested in how I convert this plan into CSS, please subscribe so I can tell you when that video is uploaded. In the future videos, we're going to be creating the file, and we're going to be looking at animation of how to add that to it. We're going to be looking at how to use the after class, because we'll need to use that for the blurred glow. And we're going to be looking at how to transform our containers. So we talked a little bit in the previous video about how to make a circle and how to make a triangle. Here we need to be a little bit more delicate when we create the shape of the fire. So we're going to be looking at how to do that. But again, you have your plan. Feel free to try and create it by yourself before looking at the next video. In fact, I encourage that, and I hope to see you next time to compare my work with yours.